April 1st, 2006. Brian Shaffer steps into a busy Columbus bar, smiling, surrounded by friends, and caught on every camera. Minutes later, he slips behind a pillar and vanishes without a trace. No one has ever seen him leave. The authorities found no way out, no evidence, nothing. How can someone disappear from a place that should make that impossible? After a long night of bar hopping, Brian returns to the Ugly Tuna Saloona with two companions. Security cameras in the South Campus gateway capture the trio riding the escalator up to the second-floor entrance. It is shortly after 1 a.m. Reports later place the moment at about 1:15 a.m. Brian is joined by William Florence, known as Clint, and Meredith Reed, a friend who offered them a ride back from the short north. The escalator is the only public way in or out of the bar at this hour. All three are clearly visible on the footage as they step off at the top and head toward the entrance. The setting is busy, the crowd thick with people celebrating the start of spring break. Inside, the group blends into the late-night energy. Three friends, one destination, all recorded on camera as they disappear into the bar's interior. At 1:55 in the morning, security footage captures Brian standing near the entrance of the Ugly Tuna Saloona, talking and laughing with two women. He appears at ease. No sign of distress, no hint of what is about to happen. As the conversation ends, Brian turns and steps back toward the interior, moving behind a structural pillar near the doorway. The camera's line of sight is blocked for just a moment. After that, he never reappears on any camera angle. The pillar creates a blind spot, large enough to briefly hide a person, but not an obvious escape route. Every other patron who exits that night is visible, accounted for, and later identified on video. Only Brian vanishes behind the column and is never seen again. Police reviewed camera coverage throughout the entrance, the escalator, and the adjacent hallways. No footage shows Brian leaving. The blind spot remains the last place he is ever seen, an unresolved gap in a system built to watch everything. Detectives began with a frame-by-frame review of every camera in the South Campus gateway. Each feed was checked for accuracy, and timestamps were synchronized to real-time using bar receipts, credit card swipes, and staff testimony. The main entrance, covered by a fixed-angle camera, showed every patron ascending and descending the escalator, with faces, clothing, and movements logged. Police compared entry and exit footage, matching each person who left with those who arrived. No one slipped through disguised or unnoticed. Internal angles from the bar's own cameras were analyzed for possible alternate routes, but none revealed Brian leaving. Investigators extended their audit to cameras in nearby businesses, searching for any sign of him emerging onto High Street or side alleys. Every exit, every shadow, every possible path was scrutinized. By the end of the review, authorities were certain. Every person who entered the Ugly Tuna that night was seen leaving, except Brian Shaffer. Search teams moved quickly, covering every accessible part of the bar and the surrounding complex. Officers checked storage rooms, maintenance closets, and the unfinished service corridor near the entrance, the one area not meant for patrons. That corridor, still under construction, was cluttered with debris and poorly lit. Police and dogs swept through it, but found no evidence Brian had ever passed through. No clothing, no blood, not even a trace. The same went for dumpsters, rooftops, and the city's sewer lines. Cadaver dogs worked the bar and construction zones, detecting nothing. Every possible exit was scrutinized. The main escalator and stairwell were covered by cameras, and all other doors were either locked, alarmed, or under renovation. Investigators ruled out the idea that Brian could have slipped away unnoticed through a side route. With no physical clues and no unexplained paths left, the case settled into a puzzle with no edges. Every lead was closed, every search empty, and the question of how Brian vanished remained hanging in silence. Randy Shaffer refused to let his son's absence fade into silence. Every morning, he set out with stacks of flyers, taping Brian's face to telephone poles and storefront windows across Columbus. He dialed Brian's phone every day, holding on to the hope that one call might break the silence. For months, the phone would ring instead of going straight to voicemail, a small, stubborn signal that felt impossible to ignore. Experts would later explain it as a network glitch, but for Randy, each ring meant the search was not over. The waiting, the searching, the endless uncertainty, these became his daily life. Ambiguous loss is a term used by psychologists to describe what happens when a loved one is missing, but there is no proof of life or death. This kind of uncertainty can make grief last much longer and feel much sharper. For families, even small unexplained signs, like a phone that keeps ringing, can feed hope and make it impossible to move forward. The mind stays locked in a cycle of searching and waiting, unable to grieve or let go. Randy Shaffer's experience is a textbook example. His daily calls and his relentless search were driven by the pain of not knowing. When closure never comes, the loss remains open and the suffering continues. Nearly 2 decades later, Brian's disappearance still haunts families of the missing. It reminds us that, even in an age of surveillance, some answers remain forever out of reach.